Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is another special edition where we are delighted to be joined by a trainer who has a few pretty live chances next week at the Cheltenham Festival. I'm your host, George Elek, and delighted to be joined on the line today by Kim Bailey. Kim, thank you very much for joining us today. How are you feeling? You know, it's Monday now, so we can now say it's all going to be next week. How are you feeling ahead of Cheltenham Festival?
Well, pretty excited, really. The end of it, I've got some live chances going there. The horses are in good form, and yeah, no, it's an exciting time. I'm very much looking forward to it.
One of the questions that we always ask trainers for this, I mean, for fans of the game, whether you're somebody who only tunes in for Cheltenham once a year, or you're somebody who is relentlessly, watching the racing every day, Cheltenham is the pinnacle of the sport. How is it for you? How special is the festival for yourself?
Well, it is. I'm sorry, but at the end of it, there's no other day's racing that gives you the buzz that Cheltenham does. Perhaps the Grand National might be the only other one that sort of sits up there. But I mean, the 4 days, if you've got runners at Cheltenham, there's no better place to be. And I have to say, even if I haven't got runners, I would always go, because I just think the buzz of the whole meeting is just something else.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm somebody who, I haven't missed a day for the last 3 years, mainly because of work. But I'm quite looking forward to actually for once being able to watch it sat on the sofa on TV. But that's not the case for most people. And certainly, I would absolutely love to be able to just go to a racecourse anyway. I mean, how do you feel ahead of next week, knowing that you're going to be there, but the fans won't be there to cheer the horses home?
If you want my honest opinion, which you're obviously going to get, it's going to be horrendous. I'm looking forward to going to Cheltenham, yes, but I'm not looking forward to actually being at the racecourse with no people, because at the end of it, the atmosphere is what it's all about. You know, if you turn up for a day's racing at Cheltenham without crowds, it's a really odd, really strange feeling. I sponsor a race at the Pony Club race day they have, and that's usually a week, 10 days after Cheltenham Festival. And it's a big day for the Pony Club people and the pony racing people, but it really is a dull day, because actually, you walk to the front of the stands, you see nothing, you see the horses coming back, there's very little, the commentary, yes, but it's not the same. And I mean, it's a very eerie place, Cheltenham, when it's empty. It's going to feel really odd. And I have to say that I just hope the TV cameras, which I know they will do, will change their angles and make it, so you and I, well, sorry, you more so being at home, won't notice the fact there's nobody there.
Well, I mean, you know what it's like to have festival winners. And if we go all the way back to 1995, you trained both the Gold Cup winner and the Champion Hurdle winner in the same year with Master Oates and Alderbrook. I mean, I want to ask you about that year, that feeling, because Cheltenham does throw up these incredible stories, and your story from 1995 is certainly one of those.
Yeah, well, it was an extraordinary story, because at the end of it, I was asked to train a horse to win the Champion Hurdle, who'd only had one run over hurdles before and finished virtually last at Newcastle a couple of seasons before, by a man who had a dream on a beach while on holiday, probably having had one tequila too many, that his horse would win the Champion Hurdle. And he dropped on my doorstep and asked me to train it. Well, I mean, you don't say no, do you, to anybody's dream? And I thought it was a complete waste of time, but it turned out to be true. And because actually, when I did start to look at the name of the horse, I did realise he had turned into quite a good flat horse since his last run over hurdles. And we sent him to Yogi Breisner. He had 10 days of trying to make him jump before he turned up with me. So, yeah, and it was very exciting, and it was a great moment. And, I won't forget it as long as I live. So.
I mean, I guess going back to the fans conversation, I mean, you yourself will know, having experienced that incredible year, the whirlwind around what must have happened in 1995, how important were, walking back into the winners' enclosure with those huge crowds and the huge cheers, how important was that to the experience of winning?
Well, it was all the experience, because at the end of it, you watch the race and you get captivated by the race. But it's only immediately after the race that you suddenly realise what you've achieved, because the first person to come up and congratulate me was Oliver Sherwood, and he trained large action. And I'd rung him actually when Alderbrook turned up at my doorstep and said, "I'm going to beat you in the Champion Hurdle." And I think we both laughed at each other when I told him. That was an extraordinary moment. And then, of course, my father turned up to me, and he kissed me on the cheek for the first time since I was 7 years old. And that was the moment when I couldn't take much more, really. Incredible times. We'll look now to your most recent festival winner from 1995 to 2020 with Imperial
Aura, who won in the 2.5-mile novice chase last year, and then followed that up this season with 2 striking wins at Carlisle and Ascot before unseating last time at Kempton, vying for favouritism in the Ryanair at the moment, currently best price 13-2. Firstly, how is Imperial Aura after that unseat, and what kind of form does he come into here?
Well, I can safely say that, he didn't know that he'd unseated his jockey. He just ran the racecourse without anybody on top of him. He's scored plenty of time since then. So, he's on the whole a very good jumper. And I don't think David Bass is going to give him the opportunity to lose his concentration going into a fence this time. He's done some really good pieces of work since then. And we gave him a bit of a break after the Kempton race. We always planned to go from there straight to Cheltenham. We haven't been tempted to go anywhere else with him. I'm delighted with him, and he couldn't be in a better place. Is he good enough? Time will tell.
Time will tell. In terms of the future, you look at these horses, especially the way that Imperial Aura is kind of rising up the ranks. Are you hopeful that next year he'll be a Gold Cup horse?
Well, I think we'll take one step at a time, and he has a Gold Cup entry, as you know, at the moment. He's still in it, but it's not up part of our criteria to take it up anyway. So, he's a horse, I think, with a great deal of future.
Let's then move on to First Flow, who had won 5 races in a row before heading to the Clarence House, but wasn't given much of a chance in there. With going off 14-1 for that race, but absolutely blitzed some of the finest chasers around in Politolog, waiting patiently. Before we get on to First Flow's champion chase chances, were you surprised by the manner of that win? Going into the race, did you expect First Flow to be able to put in that kind of a performance, stepping up in class?
Well, I don't think any of us expected him to put up that sort of performance. We did expect him to run very well. He had every right to be going into the race. He's won his last 2 races over this season. He won his last 2 races the season before. 3 races the season before. He was progressive. He was in a good place. He was due. There was only one other race I could run him in. That was a handicap carrying top weight, and we thought, sod it, we'll go for there and see what we can do. We've got to find out where we're going to the future. And he is an extraordinary horse. He's an oddball, and in every sense of the word. He's got no right to be as good as he is. He'll try for you. He'll run through a brick wall for you. His run at Ascot the time before was probably the one that gave us some sort of impression he could now go on what wasn't really soft ground, because he came from behind, which we didn't expect he was capable of doing, and didn't jump very well and still managed to go and win. I think we learned an awful lot that day. I think David learned an awful lot about him that day as well, which is probably more important. He's a horse that needs a lot of knowing, and he will have a lot of faith in him because he doesn't jump very well at home. In fact, he'll break most of the fence we put him in at home. We school him over tractor tyres. That's the only way we can get any respect out of him. I don't know, that it was a race that elevated him right to the forefront of where the champion chase is, really. And is it something I'm looking forward to? Yes, very much so. Is it something I'm dreading? Yes. It's a left-handed track. He's never shown his true form left-handed. He's been to Cheltenham once before and ran badly. I would dearly, dearly love to win a champion chase.
You're up against one of the festival hot pots, sure to be pretty popular with a few favourites backers out there in Chacun Pour Soi. How do you go about, I suppose, when you came up against Politolog and Waiting Patiently, you already had 2 stars there, but how do you go about taking on, one of the most fancied horses of the week?
Well, at the end of it, we don't know, because he's never been to Cheltenham either. So we're all. I think you just ride your own race. Because I don't. The jockey does. He rides his own race. We'll just quietly get on with it. It is. And with Altior coming in with a pair of cheek pieces on him now, it's going to be it's no pushover. I have huge respect for Altior, and cheek pieces could make a very big difference to him. So it's going to be a cracking race, and it should be.
One of our tipsters on this show, Ed Quigley, lives by the racecourse, and he was telling us last week that the weather is glorious, or has been glorious, and there's no rain really forecast for the next couple of weeks, expecting some spring ground, which we don't normally get for the festival. First Flow's best form has probably come on soft and heavy. Could that be an issue going into next week?
Well, it certainly could be an issue, and I can promise you one thing: I've got more weather apps on my phone than probably knew existed, and I keep looking at everyone. There is one that tells me it's going to rain at Cheltenham this week. Let's hope they're going to get 20-minute rain they're forecasted to get. But the problem with Cheltenham is more than anything else, it might rain on top of me here, sitting 5 miles from Cheltenham, and it won't mean it'll rain at Cheltenham Racecourse because it's a microclimate for some extraordinary reason, and it can bypass them. So let's pray it bypasses me and lands firmly on the racecourse. Otherwise, I should be out there with my watering can.
First Flow, aptly named. We've mentioned David Bass when talking about both Imperial Aura and talking about First Flow. It's fair to say that since he's joined your team, both David Bass and Kim Bailey have enjoyed a great time together. How important is he to your operation?
He's a very important part of the whole operation because he puts a huge amount into it. He's here 2-3 days a week riding it. He rides every single horse in the yard, or has done, and he's very forthright with his feedback to me. He's a very important part of the team, and his stature has grown, his confidence has grown. I don't give him instructions anymore. I leave it to him. We might disagree hugely after a race, but at the end of it, he has to make his own mind up what he's going to go and do, and we will discuss what we think. But he's a man who has very solid opinions of what he's going to do, and I've yet to make him ride a horse from behind.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, certainly been incredibly impressed with what he's done, certainly with those two. We'll move on now to Happygolucky, who I'm not sure if you're aware, probably or not, but been one of the gambles of the last couple of weeks in the handicaps at the festival. Now favourite for the Ultima. So can we expect that this will be the entry that he takes up next week?
Yes, that will be the plan. He's probably not good enough for the novices. You keep a horse in case something drastically goes wrong or whatever you want to put it, or something goes wrong with the opposition. But no, the handicap is very much his race.
Just 3 runs over fences so far and a mark of 147. Do you feel like there's a bit of juice running off that mark?
Well, obviously, I like him to be on 140, but
if it was up to you.
He's had 3 runs. He probably should have won all 3 of them. I think he's a progressive horse. I like the horse. He's a very professional attitude towards life, and he gets very unfazed by everything. He's been around the course over fences and over hurdles, and I don't think he'd be I hope not too fussed about being in a big handicap. Now, obviously, at the present moment in time, he hasn't raced against many horses over fences, so that's always a worry. But he took to the hustle and bustle of the Martin Pipe last year very well, and if he hadn't been badly interfered with in the last, he'd have finished 3rd that day. So no, he's a very likable individual.
Another one that's aptly named, Happygolucky, and a Happygolucky individual too. We'll talk about Vindication now, who has a pretty intriguing entry for the stayers. Is that the plan?
Well, at the moment, he's in the 2 races. He's more likely probably to go to the stayers. I've kept him in the Gold Cup just in case something ever happens to the leading fancies in the Gold Cup, because at the end of it, I've always believed he's a Gold Cup horse. My problem with him is the fact that he's come into this season, like last season, without a huge amount of experience. Unseating at Newbury was not what we planned. The horse had jumped very, very well the whole way around the racecourse, but something happened that day, and none of us can work out why or what it was, because at the end of it was the one fence, the cross fence at Newbury, when the camera angle doesn't help you. David Bass thought he'd fallen off before he even got to the fence, which obviously we know he didn't. So it's a bit of a shock, really. It's not ideal to go into a Gold Cup with that on your back, but he has schooled over fences since and has been good. He has the 2 entries.
I mean, for those of us who kind of a bit not surprised, but we haven't seen Vindication over hurdles since back in 2018, but some decent form back then as well. I mean, you look beating Champ, probably the highlight of that itself. I mean, do you think that if it's not a bad reserve race to have to a Gold Cup, is it? I mean, even if you are going back over hurdles, do you think Vindication would have a decent chance to serve it up to the top 2?
I don't think for one second he will win it, because I do think Paisley Park is a different league. But I mean, having said that, last year he didn't win it, so we got it. It's. I can see him probably being 3rd or 4th in the race if he was lucky and things went according to plan. He's got good hurdle form, as you rightly say. I also run You Never Call on the race, and I have, the two horses. What You Never Call has got, respectable form at Ascot. He's never been left-handed, showed any form, but he was bang there with all the protagonists at the second last and at the last at Ascot. And I'd like to think that probably Vindication will be a better horse than him over hurdles.
Interesting. So You Never Call will probably be going for the stairs as well.
He will, for the simple reason he's 10 years old. There's only one other race he can run in the season, and that's at Sandown on the last day of the season. It's a long way to wait for one run, really.
Of course, and he's come out of the Kempton race where he's pulled up okay.
Yeah, the Kempton race was a mistake. We had no intention of running him. They suddenly reopened that race, and he's a horse that has a huge preference for going right-handed, and all the owners were very keen to give it a try, and we just felt it was too close to the race before. But anyway, it proved just to be the case. Really, he's a horse that likes a good 5 weeks between races.
And he's okay now. He's
absolutely fine, yeah. And if he does go there, he will hopefully run a big race. But it'll be interesting to see. We haven't been left-handed with him since Doncaster, and when he was odds-on favourite in a novice hurdle. So I don't know. We shall see.
A few more entries at the moment. Does he know has an entry, another venture, and Wandering Star as well? Will they be taking those up?
Wandering Star won't. Another venture will. And Does He Know is still a possibility at the moment. He's due to work this week, and happy with him at the moment. But he's slightly annoyed me, really. Not the horse, but actually everything else that's happened in his life. Because we went to Newbury really to find out what sort of level he was at, and he ran out through the wing. I think that was not the horse's fault. And we went to Exeter to get him qualified for the Pertemps, and the ground although he went through the ground, it was too much for him, and he went from cantering, turning in the straight to stopping dead. So I don't know, we achieved nothing on any of those situations. So he holds 2 handicap entries and a novice entry, and the chances are he'll run somewhere, but I think it's going to be a look and learn job.
Interesting. We said at the top of the interview that you had some live chances, and I think certainly with Imperial Aura and First Flow and Happygolucky, really exciting, and we'll see where Vindication goes. Sitting here on Monday the 8th, so 8 days to go till the festival, which do you see as being your best chance of the week?
I think probably Happygolucky being the handicap. I said last week to everybody it was Imperial Aura, but all I can say is that if I just get one of them to go and win, that'd be great. If you ask Nicky Henderson, Paul Nicholls, or anybody else, all they want is a winner at the meeting. I'm no different. We want a winner, and then you get greedy.
It's interesting that you mentioned Paul Nicholls and Nicky Henderson, because my next question, and the last question I'm going to ask you, is one we've asked them in the past. We were at Fergal O'Brien's yard a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him too. If you could steal a horse, if you could go and pinch any horse from any trainer and stick him in your yard now, ready to run at the festival, who would you take?
Well, if you asked me this one last year, which you didn't, because you didn't ask me last year, but Altior has been a horse I've absolutely loved all my life, and I'm just a huge fan of the horse. We've crossed swords with him enough times with a dear old Charbel. And I would dearly love him to have him here. And if I can't take my own horse into the champion chase, I still think you can never walk away from a horse that's been there before, and really hasn't done much wrong. He's had a difficult time, and I think he'll run very well. I mean, I just think he's a very special horse.
So that's the 2020 answer. Is it also the 2021 answer as well?
It's the 21 answer as well. Yes, because he's been there enough times, and I mean, he's got the experience. And the great thing about Altior, and I'm talking against my own chances here, but he's a horse that looks beat halfway down the hill and still produces the goods. And anybody walking into my yard, the first thing they always ask me, would you have beaten him with Charbel? I know perfectly well we wouldn't have done. But everybody thought for that moment we were going to beat him. But that's Altior for you, because he looks beat at that particular moment in time in that race. And he was electric when he ran in the novice hurdle. So he's a very, very good horse. And if I can't win it, then that would be great if he can.
Definitely some amazing comeback stories at the festival. Obviously, we've got Altior, also got Paisley Park coming to try and reclaim his crown. You've got Goshen, who had that horrible fall at the last year, coming back to try and win the champion hurdle. Going to be an incredible week. And Kim, I think everybody at oddschecker hopes that at least one of the horses we've discussed today will get home in front for you. To the listeners and the viewers, please do check out the oddschecker YouTube channel for plenty more preview content. On Thursday, we'll be doing our festival preview with Betfair, with Andy Holding, Tony Calvin and Barry Orr and myself hosting. We've got A Day in the Life of Fergal O'Brien that we filmed a couple of weeks ago as well. And do download the oddschecker app for the very best prices, free bets, bookie offers, and all the best tipsters straight to your app in the morning for each day's racing. Thanks very much to Kim. Hopefully speak to you very soon and hopefully see you at a racecourse.
That would be something to look forward to. Thank you.